Is history repeating itself? Italy now finds itself waging a war against the Muslims once again, not on the sandy dunes of Africa, but in Parliament. Italy is well known for its rich history and cultural heritage. Now it is facing an existential crisis. Is Islam reshaping the nation again? Italy is struggling with declining birth rates and rising immigration from Muslim-majority countries. Lombardy, Emilia-Romagna, Sicily and other regions are undergoing a dramatic shift in demographics. Mosques are cropping up all over cities such as Milan and Halal markets are on the rise. Islamic holidays are also becoming more and more visible, which is becoming more visible. All signs point toward a significant cultural transformation. Right now, Italy is struggling with its identity with its rapidly changing population. As Muslim communities prosper within Italy, they are also becoming more vocal and more politically active. They start to challenge laws and advocate for their rights in a country whose values inherently do not align with theirs. This change sparked backlash from both the right and left. Those on the right argued that increased immigration threatens the country's security and cultural identity.
Io penso che ci sia un problema di compatibilità tra la cultura islamica o certa interpretazione della cultura islamica e i diritti e i valori della nostra civiltà.
As you can see in this video, Italy's Prime Minister Giorgia Meloni recently made a statement too about how there is a difference in values that made the two civilizations incompatible. That does not mean that one is worse than the other, of course, but you also would not put gorillas in the same cage as lions. They can coexist, but in separate areas. It has always worked well over centuries. A 2021 survey conducted by CIR showed that around 60% of Italians think that the country needs stricter immigration controls, which reflects the widespread concern about the impact of the demographic changes we see in Italy today. Such tensions are present in both anti-immigrant and pro-immigrant protests that spread across the country, further polarizing Italy. What is interesting is that all of this is not something new. Recent tension perfectly mirrors the complicated alliances and was from medieval times when Italy used to be the battleground between Christian and Islamic forces. It all started around the 9th century when the Saracens arrived, but they were on less friendly terms. They invaded and settled, bringing their science, art, architecture and Islam to southern Italy and Sicily. You can say that Sicily quickly became the bridge between the East and West that soon became part of a vibrant trade network that connected the Mediterranean world with North Africa and the Middle East. Then, the Crusades' incursions changed the balance, giving rise to Christian cities such as Genoa and Venice as maritime superpowers, casting back the centuries-long retreat of Islamic influence. Nowadays, Italy again finds itself at the forefront of this conflict. Islamic communities that once faded away are now coming back to the center stage and reasserting themselves in impactful and undeniable ways. Even if Muslims are only making up 5% of the total population in Italy, their presence is making headlines. It is clear that the dynamics in Italy are changing once again. In cities such as Milan, Islamic culture is pretty much a part of daily life. But this resurgence is more than just cultural. It is also political. Muslim communities are more organized and vocal, and they are pushing against laws and demanding rights in a country whose values do not align with theirs. This pushback is reshaping Italy in many ways that are making many Italians uncomfortable, and this has triggered waves of cultural pushback. That is not to say that Muslims are here to do what the Saracens did back in the 9th century. Due to the declining birth rate in Italy, the country is suffering from labor shortages. Muslim immigrants satisfy that demand, especially in sectors such as agriculture and services. That said, it is fascinating to see that even though they are taking up the slack, unemployment rates among Muslims remain much higher than the national average. This is a reflection on Italy's economic challenges as well as integration problems within Italian society. A 2021 OECD report also showed that only 35% of Italians think that Muslims are well integrated into society, which is a clear indication of social cohesion struggles. Then, in 2022, the Italian National Institute of Statistics reported that 40% of Muslim immigrants feel socially isolated, mainly due to differences in values and cultures. This is not something out of the ordinary, considering that Italy is well known for its deep-rooted traditions and cultural pride, and the influx of Muslim residents is changing that, creating a cultural flashpoint. With more and more Muslim immigrants flooding into Italian neighborhoods, many Italians are experiencing a cultural whiplash, and the rapid changes fuel tension and unease, especially in places where traditional values are deeply rooted. Many Italians took to the streets in protest, saying that the Muslim immigrants were threatening to erode the Italian culture, and that stricter immigration controls needed to be implemented to prevent the loss of national identity. Pro-immigration groups are also active in this debate, demanding immigrant rights and integration. Such tensions are present in everyday interactions, where one side demands integration, whereas the other feels their way of life is at risk. These struggles are not just about economics or employment, but about the identity of modern Italy. And this problem is just going to get worse as time goes by. The Muslim population in Italy is projected to almost double by 2050, and this will further fuel unease in the Italian population. Because Italy is so close to North Africa, it is a key entry point for migrants. The influx of illegal migrants, most of whom are Muslim, also does not help the situation, as many Italians fear the loss of jobs and public resources. The history between Islam and Christianity also does not help, as the Crusaders and the Ottoman Empire left many Muslims in animosity. That animosity oftentimes blends with current events. Except this time, the struggles over integration and multiculturalism are verbal, in parliaments and public squares. For instance, back in 2016, there was a plan for a mosque to be constructed just 400 meters away from the iconic Tower of Pisa. Hundreds of Italians have protested in demonstrations in opposition to this project. That turned into a whole political drama 4 years later. Now Muslim leaders are taking the fight to the local governments, especially in areas with great Muslim populations. These Muslim communities are mobilizing like never before by throwing their numerical advantage behind those who would advocate for their interest, even if it is detrimental to Italians. In fact, in certain local elections, Muslim voters have altered the result. This is a clear sign that immigration and Islamic practices are a threat to Italy's security, cultural identity, and economic stability. It highlights the growing influence of the Muslim communities in reshaping Italy's socio-political future. But Italy alone is not the only country struggling with this problem. Many other European countries, such as the United Kingdom, are also grappling with the growing Islamic influence. Immigration is becoming a real problem in Italy. Just a few months back, Lampedusa Island received over 1,500 people in a day and a half, with most of them coming in from Lebanon. This sudden arrival quickly overwhelmed the local migration facilities, even though there were regular transfers to other centres in Italy. Nowadays, over 2.6 million Muslims now call Italy their home. This group of demographics accounts for about 5% of the total population, and this number is slowly but steadily increasing due to natural growth as well as immigration. The Muslim population is aware of their growing strength. If you are curious, I encourage you to check a recent investigation by Fuori dal Coro, an Italian news program. They went undercover during Ramadan and discovered the toxic Islamic antipathy toward Italian Catholics and Jews. The video is titled "Immigrants and Violence: The Muslims Who Hate Italy," or "Immigrati e Violenti: Gli Islamici che odiano l'Italia," and you can find it by googling Mediaset with the title above.
È scritto adesso nel Corano, noi li cacciamo via.
Visto che i musulmani nel mondo sono così tanti, non conquisteranno tutto il mondo.
Sì. Sì, la prima cosa sarà l'Italia, perché l'Italia è vicinissima all'Islam, perché l'Italia ancora.
In this documentary, the reporter went to various illegal mosques in the Via Padova area in Milan and interviewed the Muslims there. As you can see in the video, a Muslim man said it is written in the Quran that they're going to kick the Jews out. He also went on to compare how sparsely populated the Christian churches are compared to the densely packed mosques, and that Muslims will conquer the world, starting with Italy, just because of its geographical location and that Italy has a good heart. What does that tell us? They think of Italians as warm and accepting, but they also see it as a weakness. Moreover, the documentary also showed in plain view that some indigenous Italians are constantly threatened by Muslim men and gangs that roam the streets to create no-go zones, which is already something we see in our homeland. There are even so-called child gangs prowling the streets. In the train station of Porto Garibaldi, many young Muslim gangs operate with impunity. One gang, in particular, was armed with knives and bottles and got away with 7 robberies before they were arrested and incarcerated in juvenile prisons. They targeted Italian youth specifically. What is tragic is that these are second-generation immigrants, children who find themselves feeling isolated. They feel that they do not belong in Italy at all, and they turn to a life of crime. And if the projection is true, the problem will only get worse from here. And if the projection is true, all the European nations need to think long and hard about their immigration policies, because this problem is not exclusive to Italy. It is present all over Europe, albeit less visible. And that is all I have for you today. Like and share this video and subscribe to our channel for more news as they happen. Thank you for watching and see you next time.